How good it is to see all of you again, to welcome our Labor Day visitors. You're most welcome here, and to share with you the thought which I'm probably the only one in the world who has this thought right now, to share with you the thought that summer was too short. Now, we hear in the first reading something that is completely forgotten in our culture and in our society today. And that is that God's thoughts are not our thoughts. Who can even conceive what the mind of the Lord is? That mind which is clothed with total mystery. Who can even conceive what God thinks? Because after all, the writer says, our human thoughts, our human ways, our human opinions are timid and unsure. When was the last time in the editorial column that you heard the State Journal say, our thoughts are timid and unsure? Our country and our culture believes that you and I are the source of unchangeable truth for ourselves, not for anybody else, because everybody else has their own unchangeable truth. And that whole approach is contradictory. There's somebody down there that maybe thinks he has unchangeable truth, and I just hurt his feelings. That's what our culture is all about. I am the source of truth for me, and you are the source of truth for you. And so it goes. We never hear someone say, I am unsure and timid in the face of what God teaches. Uncertainty and timidity, reflections as they are of humility, have disappeared. They've completely disappeared. No one ever says to me, Bishop, women should be ordained, but I'm unsure about that. Never, ever, not once. Bishop, all the church's teaching on sexuality must be changed. But I'm unsure about that. Not a bit of uncertainty. Not a bit of timidity. And that's why our culture is on the way down. Because our culture has forgotten the most important truth of all, that God is God and that you and I are not. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so high are his thoughts above our thoughts, his ways above our ways. As high as the heaven is above the earth, that's been forgotten. And so, in our world where power, pleasure, and money are forgotten, we have even lost the knack of planning. Careful planning that we see in the gospel. If you're going to build a tower, make sure you got the resources to finish it. Don't leave a half tower there. Or if you're a general and you're going to attack, don't attack if you have the slightest chance of losing. Attack in a way that's sudden, massive, and decisive. Plan! And of course, the gospel says, beware those who don't renounce all of their possessions. Why? That's a matter of planning. Planning for what? Planning for death. The most foolish thing in the world is to be so attached to power, pleasure, or money, so attached to our own opinions, which we never doubt, so attached that we cannot die a peaceful and good death. Attachment to possessions will kill off a good death every time. And the most obvious thing in the world, of course, we all know it, is that you can't take it with you. And that's what the gospel is talking about. If you don't renounce all your possessions, if you're not detached from all your possessions, you won't be ready to leave it all behind for the Lord and go running to meet Him. Instead of looking forward and running to meet the Lord, you'll be looking backward at what you're going to give up, like it or not. That ain't a happy death. Planning. Planning according to the mind of God, not according to human ways that are timid and unsure. Planning according to the mind of God. And I'm doing that right now in what I'm about to say. I'm planning for us in accord with the mind of God. My schedule has been and continues to be very busy. I won't be here much between now and October, and even after that somewhat. But please God, in October, I will start to offer this Mass here at St. Patrick's on Sunday morning when I am here, ad orientem. Ad orientem. Now, of course, this congregation is unlike practically any other in the diocese, because when I say that, A, you know what I mean, B, and this is the unbelievable part, you smile and you nod your head at me. I say this a few other places, I'll have to take both my hats off and duck. But Cardinal Sarah and Cardinal Burke for years, and Pope Benedict XVI, have made the point over and over and over again that according to God's mind, his plan is that at the end of history he will come from the east like the rising sun, as we see in the Magnificat, as we see in the Psalms, as we see in the Scriptures. God's plan is, at the end of history, he will come from the east, from the rising sun. And when the priest stands together with the congregation, not with his back toward them, that's not the point. The point is that the priest stands together with the congregation and he faces, symbolically at least, the east. We become a mighty army marching toward the place of the rising sun to meet the Lord, led by the priest. That's who we really are. As we offer the Eucharistic sacrifice, we march together toward the east to go run and meet the Lord who comes from the east at the end of history. Now, no general ever led his troops by facing them and walking backwards. He would trip pretty soon. And if he's built like me, it would be particularly not pretty when he trips. What general would lead his troops that way? See, there's a step right there. No, we face together as we march during our time in this world, our pilgrimage on this earth. We march to meet the Lord. And it's what was intended, really, by the Second Vatican Council in their documents. I don't know if you realize this, but if you read the instructions for the priest as he celebrates Mass in the documents of Vatican II, it says, for instance, when the priest says, "The Lord be with you," then the priest turns toward the people and says, "The Lord be with you." Well, if the priest turns toward the people, he mustn't have already been turned toward them. But another idea took hold with a vengeance. That we are primarily banqueters at a sacred meal. Well, we are banqueters at a sacred meal. But first and foremost comes the Eucharistic sacrifice. And if we forget the sacrificial meal, then being banqueters quickly turns into being picnickers at the barbecue. And in so many instances, that's what the behavior at the liturgy looks like. Not here, of course. But I tell you these things, as I say all the time, because you got to go out and tell your friends. They'll listen to you better than they'll listen to me. Oh, he has to say that. And he's a staunch conservative. It says so in the State Journal. They'll listen to you better than to me. So I know you'll be ready to get with it sometime in October. and so will I, and we'll go forward as the Lord gives us. I'm not going to force any priest, any other priest, to do anything. I don't want them angry saying Mass. That darn bishop. They shouldn't be thinking of that when they're saying Mass, if I can help it. But we're going to begin, because that will make our worship more reverent and make it clear that we're focused on God and His mind and His ways and absolute mystery, and not on our opinions. And that's so important a witness to give in this day and age. Praise be Jesus Christ.